Welcome to another edition of Gauteng Live, your premier entertainment, lifestyle, and everything about the visitor economy right here in your golden province of Gauteng. Coming to you in this segment of the 702 Walk the Talk on the sideline of us as we close the July month, which is dedicated to Nelson Mandela, honoring his legacy and ideals and everything that he stood for. Democratic, prosperous South Africa, a better world and a better Africa. I'm joined by the boss of my boss and the bosses of all the bosses. But today it has been a phenomenal walk, Ms. J, a beautiful day in the capital city, Mopitori Mahlangeng.
Yes, and I was also meant to learn some Pitori words and must get there, but...
So let me teach you one.
Give me one.
So you say, when you say your things are fine, you are happy, you say how di popile. You say how di popile. They have popped. They have popped. Di popile.
Ipopile.
Yeah. You say, Dina Metse Ranex.
Dina
Metse Ranex.
Dinametsi Ranex.
Yeah, Ranex is a car.
Ranex.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. So you say your things are running, they're on a car.
They're running.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. This is just a magnificent day. It's 19 degrees. It is winter. The sky is blue. The sun is shining. And family and friends have gathered to embrace freedom. And sitting, watching the thousands come in after the walk, it just fills me with so much pride and optimism, because this is the South Africa we all want, and it is within our reach. It is the potential of our country is incredible, and days like today demonstrate to me it's not even the art of the impossible, it's just here. And we really need to work harder as South Africans to get ourselves to the next 30 years. And that just requires a level of honesty and integrity. And so for me, I love community activations. I love us coming out, whether it is Gauteng Tourism Authority doing the 702 Big Walk, whether it's DSTV Delicious, whether it's going to Kwai Mai Mai, whether it's going to Marabastad, Maboneng, Braamfontein, Shoshenguve, Refilwe, Dinokeng, Davidton. I do think we need to we must activate our diversity a bit more. We need to include some of our township areas where colored people live. Brazil has run amazing experiences, not experiments, but you have your experiences of going into the favelas where you get to, again, demonstrate to local people that they can turn their lives around. A gangster today doesn't have to be a gangster tomorrow.
Absolutely. I mean, I can imagine with such a domination of hostels, and I guess that's why Premier Lishufi made it sure that as he's leading this provincial government, township, informal settlement, hostels becomes a priority. And with so many hostels, you can imagine if we develop hostel tours. I guess you as a filmmaker yourself, award-winning for that matter, it can't be right, Ms. J, that the last production we have in the country of a hostel was Mzini Wezinsizwa. And the Gauteng provincial government says let's focus on hostels. So Maskandi, Stratamea, the Sunday hostels experience, surely we can package that.
I know, about 2 years ago I was involved in an accident going to Soweto Theatre one night. It was actually maybe more than 2 years ago. Brayu was performing, and it was the story of the white woman who was charged with the Immorality Act, a very famous story, and she represented herself in court, and they said, you may look white but you're black. Her Zulu was just perfect, and she spoke a number of languages. So again, we as a people constantly demonstrate and surprise the world by our resilience and our agency, where we can come together. But coming back to Tish, township informal settlements and hostels, I think that's a challenge for the broadcaster. We can almost do a reality TV show just in the hostels. So when I made The Accident, The guy lived in not Shawela, I'm trying to think now, not Mofolo, but anyway, he took me, he said, after we settled, he didn't have insurance, I got third-party insurance to pay, and I went to one of the hostels. It was a Saturday, and I kid you not, it was like being in deep rural KwaZulu-Natal. He brought out his 5 wives. I took my mother with me. My mother said she's not available as a 6th wife. I also said I'm way too old because the first wife has got to be the oldest. But I do think there are things that from a film creative point of view that we need to craft the product to demonstrate how we can turn our lives around. And we do this again and again and again, and I'm very excited about the 7th administration. I think there is an urgency because tourism can only thrive if brand SA flies. And even today, we started off walking through Freedom Park, the Voortrekker Monument, and there's so much maintenance that it should be ongoing maintenance. You can't wait for things to break before you fix it. It costs more to fix it than to maintain it. And then of course, Pretoria, Tshwane has such amazing buildings in the heart of the CBD, incredible architecture, falling apart as we walk through the streets, past our iconic State Theatre. The stank of urine was unpalatable. And so for tourism to thrive, we have to have clean cities. We've got to get rid of the grime. And then, of course, everybody loitering around on street corners. So I think Tshwane needs to lead, Pretoria needs to clean up. It is the seat of government, and this place should shine. When this place shines, the rest of South Africa shines.
Absolutely. 30 years of democracy, and this work has been dedicated to reminiscing on the legacy of former President Nelson Mandela. And just out of India yesterday, brilliant news with the Constitution Hill, the Union Buildings, streets of Orlando West, Vilakazi Street, June 16 Memorial, Sharpeville Memorial, the actual graveyard site which Gauteng Tourism went and cleaned out, the police station right there by Sharpeville. All this, and Walter Sisulu Square declared the Nelson Mandela Legacy World Heritage Sites. That should be brilliant news, but it speaks to your point about how then do we up, because if we don't maintain them, if we don't get feet there, and now, I guess as you know, they no longer belong to Gauteng, South Africa. As World Heritage Sites, they belong to the people of the world. So it's upon us to make sure that the people in province, in South Africa, in Africa, knows about this thing, they preserve them, and they are able to give them to the people of the world.
Yeah, because how do we build forward in a world that's so fractured at the moment with the trust deficit with leadership, the move towards the extreme right, racism in many of the European countries where Africans are being targeted. This morning there was the focus on Italy, Africa, to stop the deaths of Africans crossing the river, the ocean. And why are Africans fleeing? They're fleeing to what they perceive to be a better life, and often the better life never materializes. It ends up with death. Even other African brothers and sisters coming to South Africa, coming to the streets of Igoli, they get taken home in body bags, where we don't protect our African brothers, we don't protect life, not our own lives, not the lives of our neighbors. But coming back to this incredible recognition that the world has bestowed upon us, I think now we need a very clear strategy of how we're going to package the UNESCO World Heritage Sites so that Gauteng, one of our tourism pillars, is around culture and heritage, so that people will come by the thousands to come and walk the corridors and the streets of Madiba and our legends, be it Sharpeville, Sobukwe, Mandela, so that generations to come will understand what the fight for freedom is all about, so that we can inspire other social movements in the world. And Gauteng really is, I always say, we have our people, and You go to cities like New York, it's just buildings, concrete jungles. Concrete jungles have a fascination. And so that's what we're promoting: culture, entertainment, our people, our food, Kasi cuisine. You know, now they're calling, in Paris, it's all about the bistros, on the cafe bistros. And you know me, I can't enjoy anything more on a Sunday walking to a corner, even though I live in the suburbs where people are now making magwinias and you buy it out of the wheelbarrow. And I mean, for me, this is where the suburb meets the hood, and you can embrace, you know, from the suburbs to the townships, and without displacing the SMMEs in the townships, giving them opportunities to promote what makes us uniquely South Africa. So you don't have to drive to Soweto, you can come to Parkhurst and you can buy a fantastic pap and vleis on the corner, or a magwinia, or a kota.
But how important is that? I mean, this is top-notch gastronomy tourism 101, you know, where it's not just concentrated in a specific space, but is imbued in the entire culture, in the entire ecosystem. But how welcoming are some of what is termed established spaces? I mean, one of our top-class restaurant in Sentin, Michelin restaurant, but I still 1947 for me in Soweto, in the World Heritage Site street, should be a golden star restaurant, because this Michelin thing is just said over and over, and it became a norm and a standard. But how welcoming, how embracing, how understanding what I term the established, ready to embrace this transformation, to embrace this participation of new players.
I think we're beginning to see it, and maybe that is part of the work that we have to do, because I've spent a lot of time in South Korea, and in the city of Seoul there are more Michelin-starred restaurants than in many European capitals, and they have been able to take their traditional food, I don't even want to call it cuisine, traditional food, and they have matched what's considered Michelin criteria around quality and presentation. So you don't have to deconstruct what is indigenous food. You need to construct the dish that it meets all the criteria, so that I don't have to go to 1947 on a weekend to go and eat a good bowl of pap and vleis, etc. I should be able to go to Rosebank, to Parkhurst, anywhere, and be able to eat that kind of food that is sitting side by side with a carbonara or a wagyu steak. So it's not about, for me, I know there are feelings that we should create our own stars and grading system. I also think when you operate in a globalized world, let's say to those people who award the stars, you need to shift your understanding of food.
Yes.
And therefore, you take what is indigenous to us. I mean, I see there's a Nigerian in London, an amazing chef, and she has just taken traditional Nigerian dishes, and she's now got a Michelin star in London. And what was interesting, she could not secure a space for her restaurant because of how the establishment strangles you out.
Yes.
And now she managed to convince a landlord. She has a restaurant, she's Michelin starred, and she's serving a combination of food from Nigeria, other parts of West Africa, and people are going. So we also need to shift the mindset of some of these established American, European, whether it's Condé Nast, and I think Condé Nast has come a long way in terms of shifting how they promote, what they promote.
But I mean, there's a mohodu wrap in Hammanskraal. It's a mohodu, and then they took a wrap and they put it inside. A sellout always at a delicious festival, and I was like, oh, you can imagine a chotlo, a traditional Tshwane, and you pull it out and then you put in any of these bunnies. For me, that's how you start picking up. But I was talking to the youngsters last week at a piano summit, and I says to them, what is this thing called local and others are global? So when you are in Soweto and you are producing Boys of Soweto merchandise, by the fact that you are in Soweto, does that make you local? And with the guys in Atlanta, when they look at the garments of Boys in Soweto, do they say that because it's over the sea as they come this side? Do they look at it as global? Or is it just in our mindset that we regard our space as local and everything that is outside our space it's global? I mean, right now you put up your content, you put it on Spotify, within 48 hours it reaches the world. So what is local about our stuff?
Well, I think Dior started out in a little suburb. Dolce & Gabbana started out, I think it was in Palermo. All these brands that command disproportionate amounts of money all started where those designers or those musicians grew up. So, I mean, Gandhi, when he talked about you have to act, what is the expression? Act local. It'll come to me about, how you behave. So what you do where you are born is your locale. That's what makes you local. But the world has also seen that once a product or a piece of opera or a piece of music captivates the minds of the world, they consume it. Oftentimes, people don't even know where Pretty Yende's from or the tenors of Soweto. They are listening. So a lot of this is about the packaging. And of course, I think the shift in technology is shifting the debate. You can't get away from it. The Tiger sensation. I mean, in the end, people don't even know where she's from. They just like her music. Then they learn that she's from, they probably don't even know the place in South Africa. The woman, Aya, who just opened the Olympics, she has put her village in Mali. People don't know where Bamako is. So she was a girl from Bamako who went to France and became a global sensation. So I think in the end, your product travels when people want it. It's not about, is it local, is it global? They're going to buy it. But I also think some of our, and I suppose music has transcended that you consume. It doesn't matter where the music's from, you can consume it because you can download it on your phone. When it comes to food and fashion, of course, it's got to be exported or it has to move. And that's where things shift and the barriers and the incentives and the tariffs. So I know in fashion, for instance, you look at Makosa Baladuma or Wandela Photo. The reality is, and they will say that a South African with money will rather buy a brand that oftentimes you wonder why you're paying 27,000 Rand for a pair of shoes. The wearer of that pair of shoes will remain nameless, as opposed to buying shoes from Ikasi. But I think we'll get there. And so also, when I'm in other parts of Africa and I see how proudly people wear their local designers, and they will often wear, whether it is in Ghana, Christy Brown, Nigeria, they will wear. Only some people in South Africa that are going to wear give me a name, a Tlale, Boys of Soweto, a Shweshwe. And if I may say this without upsetting the sporting fraternity, that when you looked at Cameroon, when you looked at Burundi, when you looked at Uganda, when you looked at Ethiopia on the River Seine, they had a touch of what is definitively Burundi or Uganda. What were the South Africans wearing? It was just astounding to think that there was the costumes had no shweshwe edge. It's like, It's like it's like why? Because that is the moment where you put what is local on a global platform.
I'm an advocate of a local experience, a local content that has global reach and impact. As we wrap up, MJ, thank you very much for joining us. We are in Pitori as we started, the home of Bacardi. I know you started at the tourism industry, starting to learn in the Bacardi. There's going to be a challenge on the stage. Are you ready to show your Bacardi moves?
I am absolutely going to go out there and show Tyler how to do Bacardi, because after all, you know, many of us in Gauteng, we come from other provinces. So I want to give it up for Rebecca because I live in Pretoria. But no, I mean, Bacardi is just, it's just incredible. And that, again, as you say, is the local experience. So act local and think global, and your brand will have no barriers. And our South Africans are redefining the way in which the world looks at us as Africans. And the more we shine, the more we shift perceptions and we move away from prejudice and racism. So Gauteng Tourism Authority, I think this has been a wonderful day yet again. Our understanding of what we have to do as tourism authorities to promote events, and maybe in years to come, other people will join us from other parts of Africa and the world to come and do the big walk in the same way as they come to do our cycling events, our running events. Our DST Delicious is coming up, and they will flock here, and this is how we drive inbound tourism and, of course, promote local tourism.
Fellow human beings, that's how we wrap it up this afternoon. A splendid day. It's been a fabulous discussion. Another segment of Gauteng Live coming to you direct from the Union Buildings, 702 Walk the Talk. As we say in Sipitori, it has been a double dolly, Dinta Hamnati. Second round.
Thank you.